What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog. We are starting off our day here golfing at Luna Vista Golf Course here in Dallas, Texas. We have lost a ton of golf balls. Hopefully that's not an indication of how this poker session is going to go. We're going to be playing a 5-5-10 live stream here at Texas Card House, buying it for $3,000. Let's get down to the action. Let's get to the table. Let's go. Alright guys, straight from the golf course right to the poker table. In this hand there is a 5-5-10 $30 straddle. Folds to me and I look down at Queen Jack of clubs in the cutoff position. I decide to raise it up to $100. The action does pretty quickly fold back over to the blinds who make the call. Three ways to the flop of 8-9 deuce 1 club. We flop 2 overcards, a gut shot straight draw, and a backdoor flush draw. When the action checks over to me, I put out a bet. I announce a bet of $160. The big blind feels like that is a good price to see the turn, so he makes the call and the straddler makes the call as well. With my history watching or playing with these players, they do not like to fold, so I'm most likely going to check back the turn unless I improve to a magical 10, queen, jack, or club, which we do not get. It's the 5 of diamonds. It does bring in a straight 6-7, and now the big blind decides to lead out for a small bet, $250. When the big blind leads out on this turn card, I feel like he's most likely going to have one pair of hands, possibly a pair and a gut shot straight draw as well, so I'm getting a very good price. I would assume that my queen and jack are most likely good here for one pair above his pair, and if I hit a 10, obviously I'll make the nuts. I'm getting a great price to see the river. With a lot of money left to play with in position, I decide to make the call. A fairly sizable pot here brewing, our very first hand of the live stream here in Dallas, going to the river, which is the 10 of clubs. We make the nut straight, the best hand possible. That is what I'm talking about, and the big blind does not slow down. He keeps the aggression going. He puts out a bet of $750. One of the best feelings in poker is rivering the nuts and your opponent continues to bet into you. It does not get much better than that. I eye up my stack and I have about $2,400 left, so I feel like a jam here could be good. I want to try to get him to call with all of his 2 pairs, his sets, or possibly his lower straights like 6-7. So I eye up my stack, I look back at my cards, and I rip it all in.
He's gonna go ahead and rip it.
Turns out Phil was just bluffing, but we do take down about $1,600 in profit our very first hand. Next up here, there's a raise to $40 from under the gun. There is a call by Phil, and I look down at Ace King, the big slick. I decide to 3-bet in the small blind to $200, and both of my opponents make the call. The dealer spreads out 4-4-5 2 diamonds. On this board, I do feel like it's going to connect well with my opponent's ranges. They're going to have a lot of straight draws, flush draws, and over pairs, so given the fact that I don't have a diamond, I check. The action is now over on Joe, the initial raiser, who does now check, and then Phil puts out a bet of only $100, and remember, this is the same guy who just tried to bluff me when I had the nuts with ace high, so I don't think I can fold for just $100, and I think a check raise wouldn't make too much sense, so I make the call and Joe makes the call as well. Queen of spades on the turn, no help to us. I guess I could potentially try to rep a hand like king queen or ace queen, but against these players who do not like to fold, I decide to check, and now Phil picked up the nut flush draw. He puts out a large bet now of $500. I very quickly fold, and Joe ends up making the fold as well. In this next hand, there's an open to $75 over a $20 straddle by Jim V. There's a call in the hijack position, and I'm on the button with 8-7 of spades and call. I think this is a fine play. I'm going to be in position the entire hand. We end up going 3 ways to the flop. King, 5, 6, 2 hearts, 1 club. We flop an open-ended straight draw. Any 4 or any 9 will give us the nuts. It checks over to me, and I feel like if I call pre-flop with 8 high and I get this board, I have to start semi-bluffing, so I put out a bet of $125. Jim very quickly makes the call, and now the action is back over on Jeff. Considering Jim didn't see bet the flop, I think I can most likely double barrel or triple barrel bluff him off of his hand if I don't get there. However, Jeff decides after checking the flop to put in a check raise to $475, which doesn't make too much sense to me. I would expect him to bet all of his 2 pairs, his sets, even his top pair holdings whenever he's checked to on the flop. If Jeff is check raising with his set or 2 pair, I think I'm going to be facing a huge bet on the turn if I brick one of my outs. There also is a flush draw, which means some of my outs could be dirty. I may only have 6 outs if he has a hand like ace-6 of hearts, 7-8 of hearts, or ace-jack of hearts. So given the fact that he isn't that deep, he only has about $1,800 left in his stack, I decide to let this one go. With a $20 straddle on in this next hand, my Uber Eats Chick-fil-A order has arrived, so I'm sipping on a nice chocolate milkshake on the live stream, and I look down at Ace King in the cutoff. I make it 4x, $80. I only get one caller. Board is Jack 10-9. We flop 2 overcards and a gut shot straight draw. When Jeremy calls out of position here, I put him on a lot of small to medium-sized pocket pairs. I think he would be 3-betting pre-flop with jacks and 10s, so I don't expect him to have many sets on this board or even some straights, so I put out a bet of $150. I can get him to fold all of his smaller pocket pairs, and if he does call, I do have some outs to improve. Turn 9 of hearts does not improve our hand at all, and Jeremy checks over to me. I have to decide whether I want to continue to bluff here or give up, and I feel like on this board pair, I could be drawing dead, and it's not really a scare card, and it actually should help Jeremy's range more than it's going to help mine, so I just try to take my ace-king to showdown and check back. The river double pairs the board. It's a jack of clubs. Jeremy checks over to me with ace-high. I check this one back, and he shows queen 10 for a 10, which is going to beat our ace-high. Unfortunately, I've already lost about half of my profit that I made that very first hand. This next one, it folds to me in the hijack, and I open up ace-10 offsuit to $40 over a $10 straddle. It folds all the way back over to Jeremy, who puts in a 3-bet with ace-queen here. He's got me dominated. He makes it $200, and I quickly fold. Ace-10 offsuit doesn't play too well in a 3-bet pot. Moving on to the next hand, there's a $20 straddle and open to 60. I'm on the button with a beautiful hand. Pocket ace it. Nope, just kidding. 10-8 suited, which actually looks like aces after being card dead for over an hour. I decide to put in a 3-bet here to $200. My goal for 3-betting is to go heads up in position or potentially just take down all of this money, but that is not going to happen. When Joe wakes up with the ladies in the third blind, he cold calls my 3-bet, which doesn't really surprise me. This happens all the time in Texas. Jeff ends up making the call in the hijack, so we're going 3 ways to the flop. King 5-3 2 clubs. We completely miss with our 8-10 of spades. A nasty board for us. However, when it checks over to me, I do feel like it's a great board for me to c-bet on. I should have all the strong hands, and given the pre-flop action, I don't expect my opponents to have much on this board. I can have aces, kings, and ace-king, so I start with a c-bet bluff of $225, looking to continue to bluff on some turn cards. Joe ends up making the call, and Jeff decides to let his hand go, going heads up to the turn, which is the 9 of clubs. Not the best card for me to continue to barrel on. I'm repping such a narrow range if I continue to bet here of basically aces with the ace of clubs, a set of kings, or a flush. And I've noticed so far in Texas that whenever you're repping such a narrow range of such small hands, people call down much lighter. So I decided to just give up here and check this one back. The river 6 of hearts shouldn't change anything at all. It's not a scare card, so when Joe checks over to me, I guess I could try to bluff here, but I did watch him call down earlier with second pair. He doesn't seem like the kind of player that wants to fold, and my hand wouldn't make too much sense, so I just give up, check this one back, assuming I'm going to lose basically every time, which I do. He shows pocket queens, and that's going to beat our 10 high. When he checks the river, I would expect him to not have too strong of a hand, so I guess I could go Garrett Adelstein on him and bet 2x to pot here, but people in Texas do not like to fold, and I'm just not that good, so I check back and move on to the next hand. 2 $10 limps to me in the cutoff with 9-10 offsuit. A very bad hand, but I decide to raise to $75. I want to get in there on the stream and play some pots, but we immediately get punished when Jeremy wakes up with an actual premium. Ace-king and 3-bets to $325. Phil actually makes the call, and I make the snap fold. It seems that every time I open, raise a hand, or 3-bet, I'm running into a monster, the top of everyone's range, which is going to lead to me losing some money, but I'm not going to stop trying here. I raise again to $80 with ace-5 of spades from early position. I get a call from the hijack position before the cutoff puts in a 3-bet to $400 with pocket jacks. The cutoff player won a massive pot earlier. He's up over $10,000. However, he's not a crazy wild player. He knows what he's doing. He plays fairly snug. So when he puts in a 3-bet here to $400, I expect him to have jacks plus, ace-queen, or ace-king. And up against that range, ace-5 suited is doing terribly with only $3,000 left in my stack. I think I have a pretty easy fold. After being up a cool $1,600 our very first hand, we have literally lost every single pot we have played, and now we're back over to even, which is super tilting. I'm obviously trying to book some wins here. I've been going through a downswing, but the show goes on. We can't stop playing poker. We have pocket 8s from under the gun, raised it to $45, folds all the way back over to the big blind. The player in the big blind's name is Danny. He was nice enough to let me stay at his apartment while I've been here in Dallas, but there is no friends at the poker table. We are going for blood. We're going heads up to the flop, which comes out jack high. He checks, I put out a bet of $35 and he calls. The turn is a 10 and I feel like he shouldn't have many 10s in his range. I think I can still get value from some 6 hands and I don't want to give him a free river, so I continue to bet small for $80 and he makes the call again. When Danny check calls twice on this board, I'm expecting him to have top pair a lot of the time, which is obviously going to beat our pocket 8s. Unless we hit an 8 on the river, I'm going to be checking this one back. The river is a brick. He checks over to me. I check back. He shows queen jack for top pair, and we lose another small pot. I've noticed that whenever I am up money and I slowly lose my profit during a session and go into the red, it does put me on pretty big tilt, which is what is going on right now, but I'm trying to play like a pro, not let the small little swings get to me. I'm trying to keep my composure. We do end up winning about a $400 pot here when we flop second pair with ace jack, so we are moving in the right direction. Next hand, $20 straddle. Danny opens up the button to $60. He should be doing this with a lot of hands, so when I look down at ace-8 of diamonds, I feel like I'm most likely going to have the best hand here a lot of the time. I can 3-bet and take down some of this dead money, so I re-raise here to $250.
Oh, this is some roommate on roommate action now. Don't want someone to snap fold, man.
A great example of how terrible this session is going. We try to make a move with ace-8 of diamonds and get punished against ace-king. An interesting hand incoming here when there's a button raised to $50. Jim puts in a small 3-bet in the small blind to $125, folds over to me and the $20 straddle, and I look down at king-queen offsuit, and I feel like this is a great spot, button versus small blind, to put in a cold 4-bet bluff, so I re-raise here to $395. My main goal for putting in this 4-bet bluff is to obviously just take down this money pre-flop, but king-queen offsuit does flop fairly well. It can flop some open-enders to the nuts, it can flop some top pairs, so if I get called, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. The button lets his hand go, and Jim very quickly makes the call. Let's say Jim had jacks, queens, kings, aces, or ace-king pre-flop. I think he would take a little bit longer to call, contemplating maybe putting in a 5-bet. So when he snap calls, I feel like he has a mediocre hand at best. So when the flop comes out ace-high, I think this is a great board for me to continue to bet and potentially barrel off on. I start out with a small c-bet here of $200, which is exactly what I would do with hands like ace-king, ace-queen, aces, kings, and queens. Jim doesn't think for too long and makes a call, so I put him on a lot of pocket pairs below the ace, or possibly a hand like ace-10 or ace-jack. So when the turn pairs the board, it's a deuce. He checks over to me. I think this is a spot where I can continue to barrel, and he'll fold everything but an ace. This is a 4-bet pot, and the board is very, very dry. There's no flush draws, and there's really not many straight draws either. So if I did have a hand like aces, ace-king, or ace-queen, I wouldn't bet too big. So I decided to bet $425 here with my bluff, trying to balance that out with what I would do with my value hands. Jim very quickly grabs $425 and then stops and puts it on top of his stack. At the time, I thought this looked like a fake tank, like he had a very easy decision to make the call with top pair, but he stopped himself and made himself tank to make it look like he had a harder decision not to give away the strength of a hand, so I'm pretty sure I'm done with this pot now, especially when the river comes the jack of diamonds. Pretty unfortunate run out for me. I'm almost positive Jim has an ace, and I don't think he's ever going to be folding to any bet I make here, so I decided to just give up and check this one back, and he shows ace-7 of clubs for top pair, and we lose another pot. After a very frustrating 4-hour stream, losing basically every pot, we're down about $2,000 in the session. The table ends up breaking, so we head over to the 2-5 game. With about 2 hours left in our session, we get into a couple more hands. We raise it up to $20 in early position with pocket queens. Of course, now we get a premium hand after the stream when the stakes are smaller. We end up getting 2 callers, so 3 ways to the flop, which comes out 7 high. It checks over to me. I put out a $35 bet, and only the hijack makes the call. Heads up to the 8 of hearts on the turn, and I feel like this card can definitely improve him to some 2 pairs, maybe a set, or possibly a straight. So out of position here, I decide to check with 1 pair, and he does bet $80. Not the best looking board, holding an overpair versus a cold calling range pre-flop, but we didn't check to fold. I end up making the call, looking to re-evaluate on the river, which we see is probably one of the worst cards in the deck. 6 of hearts now brings a one-liner to any 4 or any 9, making a straight. Also the backdoor flush gets there, and even more 2 pairs get there. I check over to him, and he decides to check this one back, so maybe we are good here with our pocket queens. However, the hijack shows pocket eights for a set, destroying our dreams to finally win a pot. He turned a 2-outer on us. He was basically drawing dead on the flop, but that is how this month has been going, how this session has been going. Another pot going in the wrong direction. We switch tables and get into the last hand of the night here with ace-3 of hearts. We're in the straddle. The big blind raises to $25. I make the call. We're heads up to a flop of 4, 4, 9, 2 hearts. We flop the nut flush draw and 1 overcard. He leads out for $50 and I make the call. Queen of spades on the turn, and now he instantly checks it over to me. If he has a smaller pocket pair to the queen or maybe ace-king, he can't really withstand too much pressure here. So with the nut flush draw, I decide to start a bluff. I put out a $125 bet and he very quickly makes the call, so it looks like we are in need of some help. The dealer collects the chips and puts out the last card. We need a heart, but we do not get it. It's the deuce of spades. We totally brick and miss everything. He checks over to me, and now I have to decide, should I bluff or give up? We have basically lost every single pot this session, but we're not going to go down without a fight. I put out a bluff of $500, one pink chip going in the middle, trying to get him to fold all of his pocket pairs below a queen. He looks pretty frustrated. It shows what looks like pocket sixes and folds, puts them in the muck, so we get a bluff through our last hand of the night. After this, I end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage and cashing out for the night. All right, guys, that is it for this session. We're going to call this one the Rogue Walk and Talk to go over my session results. I'm out here in an empty parking lot because it's the only place with lighting at 1 a.m. So we're going to talk out here about the session results. So I ended up losing like $1,400, unfortunately, which is super frustrating because I was up like $1,500 the very first hand, but after that straight hand, like, I could not make a hand. I got ace king twice, I lost. I picked up no big premium hands. I never flopped a set, couldn't make a flush, and it's super frustrating because the game was pretty good and I just like couldn't get anything going. I would say like an example of how I'm feeling, like how my poker sessions have been going, is like a stray abused dog where like I'm not scared, but I'm just like timid. Like I'm just like waiting for the worst to happen. Like as you guys saw with that pocket queens hand after the stream, like I checked the turn and the guy turned a set of eights on me, like 2 outs, and he hits a set of eights on the turn. Like, I don't know. It's just, that's like a prime example of how I've been running this past 2 weeks. I'm on like a 10K downswing, which is just super tough to take, honestly. Like, it's not even about the money. It's just about losing, like going in every day and losing and losing and losing. It really is tough mentally. But I think this is going to be my last Texas live stream for a while. It's, I think they're doing more bad than they are good for me. It's tough to dealing with like the haters on there, talking shit, watching how I play, you know, talking shit if my VPIP is low, talking shit if I make a bad fold. Like, I'm over it. I'm done with it. Obviously has nothing to do with Texas Card House. Like, they're great. One of the best poker houses I've ever been to. But as for live stream games in Texas, I'm going to take a break from that and just get back to regular poker, going to Vegas anyway. But I just cannot seem to win in Texas. Like, I think it's a big mixture of running really bad, playing bad, making mistakes, and then all of that is then compounding to me even playing worse. So I don't know. Not feeling too confident about my game, but I want to express all this to you guys. I know it seems like I'm complaining a lot to the camera, but this is what this vlog is about, talking about the ups and the downs, and this is the down, but hopefully we'll be on the upswing again. But that is it for this one. If you guys liked these Texas vlogs and you watched all of them, I really appreciate it. If you could like, comment, any questions you have, anything like that, I would appreciate that as well. Next up, Vegas. It's going to be fun. Until next time, I'll see you.